Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our third and final session in the Partners for Veteran Success event series sponsored by the state of Illinois. Today, we will be hearing from both IDES and CMS. Our presenters will cover resources available to veterans in the state hiring process with an emphasis on veterans' preference, respectively. Today's session is being recorded and will be made available on the Illinois workNet YouTube channel for you to refer to at a later date. Now, I am pleased to introduce Sarah Curley, Chief Administrative Officer with CMS. Sarah.
Thanks, Daniel. Good morning, everybody, and happy almost Veterans Day for those of you who have served. Thank you so much for your service, which I actually appreciate your service, not just on weeks that have holidays in them. In your honor, but you know, I've attended the first of two veterans honoring events and sharing that my kids participate in, and every year I'm just goosebumpy and teary about it. So I am so thankful for those who choose to serve. So thanks very much. And for our older veterans that didn't always have a great choice or a choice at all, you know, we are especially grateful for your service. Now, that said, I'm excited for you all to have an opportunity to learn more about applying for state work. We have, I like to say that there's only one job in the whole world that the state doesn't have a position for. So if you are a highly experienced embalmer, and that is what you want to continue doing, we're probably not your best bet. We do contract out for actual embalming services, but everything else in the world, everything else under the sun, you're likely to find a career here at this state that lets you flex your muscles and your experience and your brains, and we would love to have you as part of the team. So I'm excited to introduce you guys today. I will jump in if needed, but I doubt that is necessary. But we here at CMS, and I know with our partners and Employment Security, as well as the Department of Veterans Affairs, DCEO, a whole host of other state agencies are very much committed to ensuring that the application process is accessible to all, that it accurately accounts for the preferences and the point preferences that veterans of varying different service levels and sometimes their families are entitled to, and that in doing so, we hope that to increase participation in state employment for current and former service people, right? Guard. I know that one of our, we're particularly proud of the ongoing service of one of our BOP, Bureau of Personnel, subdivision leaders who actually I think just got back from a short deployment. Holly works closely with him, and you'll hear more from her as the presentation goes on. But with that, I won't keep chitty-chatting with you all. I could do it all day long, trust me. We'll get down to the nitty-gritty and get you guys some great details and information, and I'm sure that we'll be sharing our folks' contact information. So if you have ongoing questions, we'll be there to help. So as to not distract, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. I'm going to turn off my video because I do nothing but watch myself if my video's on. So I will pop back if needed. But with that, Daniel, thank you for the warm introduction and the opportunity to greet everyone today. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that introduction, Sarah. And as Sarah already alluded to in her brief opening comments, we will be hearing more from our CMS presenter today on the state application kind of process overview, and more specifically how it's tailored to veterans, and more specifically veterans preference. Thank you so much, Sarah. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in right now. I do believe we have Mr. Mike Kilcommons on the line to give a presentation for IDES. So Mike, feel free to take it away.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. And God bless all our servicemen and women keeping us safe around the world. Next slide, please. As Daniel said, my name is Mike Kilcommons. I am a veterans business specialist, and I work for Illinois Department of Employment Security. I served in the Air Force as a weapons controller for 6 years, and it was back in the 80s, and currently I'm with the vet program here, and I service Will and Kankakee counties, primarily out of Joliet local office. Next slide, please. These are some of the things you're going to be learning today, who we are and what we do at IDS, why we support Illinois veterans, how we support the Illinois veterans, and how you get connected with that support. Next slide, please. We are Illinois Department of Employment Security, or as everybody knows us, the Unemployment Office. Next slide, please. We're divided up into sections. So anytime you're talking about benefits, you're talking about investigations, you're talking about taxes, we're talking about the supply side of the house, the service delivery side of the house, which is our unemployment insurance benefits. Some of us that are currently working in the veterans program started there, and then we came over. And the other sides we have is we have employment services, business services, and almost one and the same. Our business services are primarily going to be taking care of the employers, what we can do to help the employers find veterans and look for or find job seekers. And then we have employment services where we're helping the individual, we're helping the claimant, we're helping the veteran to find jobs. And one of the biggest tools we have is our labor market information. And when we're talking about labor market information, we basically use that to find the unemployment, the employment stats. We could look at job forecasts. We could check out prevailing wages in the areas and for those career fields. And it also helps us with individual demographics. Next slide, please. And why we support Illinois veterans. Next slide, please. Illinois veterans, a veteran is a person that you want, and the veterans in Illinois are decreasing. Why do you want the veteran? It's the experience, it's the work experience, the life experience. We have officers, we have non-commissioned officers that will be outstanding in management and professional fields. Anything in the military, no matter what branch you're in, it flies, it's on a ship, it's on wheels. In Joliet specifically, where I'm at, we're a major hub for transportation. So we're always looking for people to work in distribution and transportation, and who better than a veteran? And also we have openings, and we're also looking for people in natural resources, construction, and the maintenance fields. Next slide, please. And for those who don't know, we have approximately 628,000 veterans in Illinois. And for you to wrap your head around that, that's roughly the size of Albany, which is the capital of New York, upstate New York. So that gives you an idea. Next slide, please. And how do we take care of these veterans? We do this through employment and support services, our special programs, and our partnerships. Next slide, please. Veteran services, this is where I work here. We're here to help connect veterans, specifically those veterans with barriers to employment, whether it's homelessness, incarceration, to help them find jobs. We're also here to help employers look for job seekers. And if they're veterans, and if they're disabled veterans, all the better. We have re-entry employment services for different demographics. We have disability employment services, and we also have some apprenticeship programs. Next slide, please. Now, we work under the Jobs for Veterans State Grant. This comes from the federal government, and the federal government will pay for the salaries of the people that are helping you out, will pay for the programs that are helping you out. It funds programs and it dedicates to veterans to help find employment. That's how we use the Jobs for Veterans State Grant. We have a disabled veterans outreach specialist. They take care of the veteran themselves. And then myself, I'm a local veterans employment representative, and I take care of the employers But in reality, we all kind of mesh and meld together and work together as one. So I'm not turning away any veterans. My disabled veteran outreach specialist isn't turning away any employers. We're passing them off to each other. We're working together, and we really try to get everyone in unison to help that vet and help that employer get together. Next slide, please. And what do we do? So the veteran business specialist, basically I'm talking to the employers, and I'm advocating on behalf of the veteran. You need to hire veterans. Why do we have to hire veterans? Well, the reason we have some sweeteners from the state of Illinois. We have a work opportunity tax credit. We can give tax credit to employers if they agree to hire certain folks. We also have fidelity bonding, which is insurance to help protect the employers. And we also have work share, among other programs. We also train the staff at the local unemployment offices and at our American Job Centers. So when you walk in through the door, we're able to make sure you get to us and you're not sent somewhere else. So that's my responsibility to train the staff to make sure you're taken care of. Our veteran career coach, our disabled veteran outreach program, this is the guy one-on-one with the veteran. He's there at the job fairs, he's hawking jobs for the veterans, he's helping them, and he's also directing veterans who need aid or need help to different agencies and to different programs. And our employment service program is the larger umbrella that covers everybody. Now, because I work specifically with those veterans with barriers to employment, it doesn't mean I don't help all veterans. It doesn't mean I don't help all claimants in the system. It's just that we will try to specialize with those with barriers. Next slide, please. Who's eligible? I served in the active duty for more than 180 days and did not receive a dishonorable discharge. And by all means, send an email to the email in your lower right-hand corner. I was discharged and released from active duty with a service-connected disability. I was discharged and released from active duty with sole survivorship discharge. I served on active duty during a period of war or in a campaign or expedition for which a campaign badge is authorized. And I'm a member of the reserve component under the order to active duty. When in doubt, walk into your local office. They'll have you fill out a form. We'll figure out where you fall into. Call us on the phone, email, this email on the screen here today. Next slide, please. So this is big here. So when we're talking about priority service, you know, when I worked in the unemployment office over at the Harvey office in a different job, we had folks come in. I'm a veteran. You know, being a veteran gives you many things. It doesn't let you go to water fountain first or do everything, but it does give you priority. We will help you in employment, in training, and placement services. The Veterans Preference Act. I was a Teamster for 20 years before I got this job. I've been doing this job for the last 15. When I got laid off, I was told, you know, you're a veteran, go to the state of Illinois, give it a try. And really, I was like, yeah. I really didn't believe too much into it. This is one of the biggest feathers you have in your cap as a veteran in Illinois, is working for the state of Illinois. There is a Veterans Preference Act. They do act on it. You can get points on any testing you do, and you will be considered first for certain jobs. Next slide, please. And now connecting you with support. Next slide, please. So here at intocareers.org, you get into career information system. These tools like Illinois JobLink, career information systems, you owe it to yourself to at least log on, at least take a look, at least see what it has available to you. Next slide, please. And these are some other services we have. We have a veteran readiness and employment. We have HVRP, which is for homeless veterans. And we have programs for Guard and reserves. Next slide, please. Now, on the employer side of the house, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but this is how we're able to entice some of them to help veterans get jobs. A lot of these employers, they're veterans also. They're gung-ho and they're excited about hiring veterans. But some we have to bring along with the fidelity bonding, with work share, however we could work with the employers and work with the veteran. The object of the game is to get everyone together. Next slide, please. So here's your point of contact. When in doubt of your status, but just write your name, your zip code, and your phone number. Your zip code is going to help us put you in touch with the right person. Whether you have a Will County zip code and you come up to me, or you have a Chicago zip code or an Elgin zip code, we'll get you in the right spot. And by all means, if you're on unemployment, check out ids.illinois.gov. There's a lot of wonderful programs there. And also Illinois Job Link, which is basically our version of Monster, Indeed. You know, we're all getting people. We have every claimant on Illinois Job Link, and that attracts a ton of employers. So we'd love to get you on it. Next slide, please. I just want to say thank you very much. We have Holly coming up next with CMS. Veterans out there, I can't emphasize this enough, that this is very, very, very important for you. It's a wonderful career, and they really help you get a leg up. So by all means, look into it. You'll be doing yourself a favor. Thank you and God bless. And Daniel, back to you.
Excellent presentation, Mike. Thank you so much for that. And again, I see some messages here in the chat about PowerPoint slide availability, if you will. We'll go ahead and confer with CMS after this to see if we're able to release the PowerPoint slides. But in any case, just know that the session is being recorded, so all of the wonderful information that is being covered here today will be made available to participants within 48 hours or so of the conclusion of this event. So be on the lookout for that on the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel under the Virtual Job Fairs playlist. Thank you again, Mike. Next up, we do have Holly with CMS, and I do believe she's going to be giving us a presentation over the state hiring process. And again, as we alluded to earlier, specifically veterans' preference and how this kind of factors into the equation. So Holly, if you are available, feel free to take it away.
Thank you. The state of Illinois is very, what do I want to say here? We have state laws that help veterans qualify and give them a leg up towards state employment. Under the state law, qualified veterans are entitled to points added to a passing grade. The key thing there is the passing grade. All veterans will be required to submit a certified copy of their DD-214, DD-215, or NGB-22, or the retirement points worksheet if they're still serving, as proof of service at the time of application. You can direct all of your questions to Veterans Outreach by email at illinois.gov. To receive the preference, you have to separate it from active duty under honorable conditions, and one of the following conditions must be met. You must have served at least 6 months in federal service, released from active duty because of a service-connected disability, or discharge based on hardship. The current system that we use right now was created in January of 2000, and since then, since then, applicants have been requested to submit certified copies of their DD-214, DD-215, or NGB-22 that states the discharge was under honorable conditions. Once the veteran's preference is established, they no longer need to include those documents when applying. All certified copies will remain the property of CMS. And what is meant by a certified copy, it needs to be certified by a custodian of public record, which means you would need to go to either the county courthouse and have it put on file. If you do that, you have to make sure that they do the certification on the same sheet of paper that the DD 214 or NGB 22 is on. Or you can go through IDVA, the records section. They are custodians of public records and are authorized to certify your DD 214 or NGB 22 for state service. Next slide, please. Okay, your first step to state employment is to get a passing score. Your military service may receive credit towards a qualifying score for a state job title. This means that in your resume, you're going to want to be sure to describe everything that you did as if it was a job. You're going to separate each rank and the dates that you served in each rank and the average hours per week spent on duty if it exceeds 40. Specific duties performed and supervisory duties performed. Anything else that you can think of to give you more points towards the position that you're applying for. The Veteran Outreach Program does offer career counseling via email or postal mail. Please submit your application or resume to cms.counselingbyemail@illinois.gov. Next slide, please. There are a few titles that do require you to take a test, and we have 5 separate offices that you can do that across the state. And that would be the only way you can do it. We don't offer it online. And no walk-ins are accepted. It's only done by appointments. You will apply for the position, and if it requires an automated test, someone will contact you and set up your appointment. Next slide, please. The Guide for Veteran Document Verification form is required, and you have to turn it in with your documentation. Please read each question carefully and circle where indicated and write in the answer where indicated. Questions 1 and 2, one of those should have the answer yes, that you served either full-time, regular full-time, or you were in the Guard Reserves or Ready Reserves. Every question is going to tell you what documentation is required, and it's indicated on the form. In general, the document will tell you where you can obtain the documents required. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the Veteran Outreach Program office. Next slide, please. When submitting your most recent DD 214, the member 1 without character service is not accepted. It must have your character service on it. In addition, if it's for active duty training, then it's most likely not the most recent copy, and therefore active duty training or ADT is not accepted. If you're claiming your spouse or child status, whether either service-connected disability, making it impossible for them to hold a civil service employment, or service-connected death, please complete the Guide for Veteran Document Verification form once for yourself and once for your spouse or your child. In addition, you will be required to complete the CMS 255, which you will request from the Veteran Outreach Office. Please read the verification notice and sign and date, and provide your email and phone number. Any alterations to a DD-214, NGB-22, or NA Form 13038 makes it null and void and disqualifies you for the Veterans Preference Program. It is a Class A misdemeanor to fraudulently represent yourself as a veteran. Next slide, please. To have your military documents certified, you can go to the nearest Veterans Affairs office. The VSOs are not authorized to certify for state employment. However, they are able to safely and securely send them electronically to someone in the IDVA Springfield Records section who will certify the documents for our purposes, state employment, and mail them back to you, or you may go to the Springfield IDVA by appointment and have it certified. And that's located at 833 South Spring Street in Springfield. Or you may take your original copy that has a recognized certification from a previous recording of the original, the courthouse, on your recorder, and have it put on file. And then you'll ask for a copy of it. If they put the certification on a separate sheet of paper, you will need to ask them to put the certification on the same sheet of paper that your DD-214 or NGB-22 is on. We cannot accept it on a separate sheet of paper. And there's a link there that if you're looking for your nearest Veterans Affairs office, you can follow, that will bring up all of the offices. Our sister agency, the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, provides assistance in many areas. Their veteran service officers can assist with local, state, and federal benefits, as well as information on some non-for-profit organizations that can assist with a variety of services and family-related issues. They are experts in assisting you in applying for benefits and obtaining documentation needed to secure the benefits you have earned. Learn more about the benefits and locate your local veteran service officer by going to their website at www.illinois.gov/veterans. Okay, next slide. To apply for a posting, or to apply for a job, there has to be a posting. You're going to complete in detail your resume, and if you haven't done so already, you'll need to create a profile on SuccessFactors. Submit your resume to the job posting, and the agency collects all of those and determines who has contractual rights. They will be processed first. Viable candidate is not found, then the agency will follow the union contract and personnel rules to work through the rest of the applications received. If the agency makes it to the open competitive list, and depending on the title of your application, will be graded based on the information provided on the application, or you will be contacted to schedule testing for the title. The titles that are agency select will also require you to send a resume to the agency contact on the posting. Agency select means that the agency is the one who selects the person that they're going to hire instead of going through CMS. If you're selected, you may have to take an automated test, performance test, typing or shorthand, or your application will be graded based on the training and experience. Should you be chosen for an interview, you will most likely receive an email from the agency requesting you to reply or call in and make an appointment for the interview. So,
Thank you so much for that, Holly. I do believe that was the last slide that I had in the presentation for you. So I think what we can go ahead and do now is probably circle back around to maybe some of the questions that we've got. And I see Sarah's back on the line. Sarah, not sure if there's anything else that you'd like to include before we get to Q&A.
Sure, I would love to. I can answer some of the questions, and since we have time, I would love to do a real quick walkthrough of success factors of the online application, just so folks can be a little bit more familiar with it, if that works.
Absolutely. And Sarah, just wanted to verify if you need to implement screen share, anything like that, I can make you a co-host. Just let me know.
My share screen is green, so I should be able to do it. Okay.
Okay.
I'll start working through some of the questions because they look like they are mostly ones that I can do it. Yes. Okay, IDOT. Does IDOT still use veterans preference for hiring? So the veterans preference points are actually in the personnel code. Some IDOT jobs are not under the personnel code, but the snowbirds sure are, and so are maintainers. So those kind of high volume jobs at IDOT are in positions for which veterans preference applies. The snowbirds in particular, Teamsters has some specifically negotiated MOUs with IDOT regarding veterans points applied at the beginning, and then snowbirds having preference to, and snowbirds, I mean the seasonal snowplow, highway, either hourly or seasonal staff at IDOT. Since some jobs don't test anymore, how does veterans preference work? So the statute actually sets out the points available to veterans that fall in each category. And Holly did a nice job talking about categories and the information to be provided to make sure that we have you in the right category. So for the vast majority, and we'll walk through it on the electronic application process, but so there are, like applying at Indeed, right? You make a candidate profile, you find a job you like, you go to that job, you answer some questions, and then apply. And you may hear back for an interview or some other selection criterion. At application, so the application questions are intended to determine who meets the minimum qualifications of the job, and in some cases, then goes beyond that to have weighted preferences. So if you meet those preferences, you are awarded more points. And all applicants have the opportunity to gain points by answering those questions on their application. But veterans are entitled to additional points. So if 10 applicants all meet the minimum criterion or the minimum qualifications and the preferred qualifications, and everyone has 100 points, a veteran who served in a time of hostility would have 110 points. So they would have, so those points both determine who gets interviewed. It also goes into the final interview score. And so veterans have the opportunity to use their points much more consistently in the new process than they did under the kind of paper grade process, which we've done away with. I saw some grade questions, so I'm not going to dive too deep there. I think I'll get an opportunity to answer them. Points apply to, yep. So our contractual, so when Holly was talking about contractual rights, as you know, state jobs are 90, we may not know the number, but state jobs are highly unionized. 93% of the state workforce is in a union. And a number of those union contracts provide for preference for promotion for existing union members. So don't get discouraged if you don't hear, especially like when I talk to people about applying for jobs if you see a widget maker 1 and a widget maker 2 job posted, and you're like, whoa, I can make widgets, I should apply for this job, and the widget maker 2 pays more, so I'm going to only apply to that job. Well, the chances are that that widget maker 2 is going to go to the most senior widget maker 1. Apply to both. It takes so little time. This is not a CMS 100 like production to apply for work anymore. And I'll show you some of that in just a second. But apply to both of them so that if a job is filled by union, by the contract, promotional rights, for example, that you are in the pool to be considered for the widget maker 1. And though it pays less, union employees are getting raises all the time, right? So whether it's anniversary date increases, whether it's COLAs at the start of a fiscal year, whether it's some jobs have automatic movement once you've been in a job long enough. You heard a little bit about this, like this kind of undercurrent of get into the state. It's a great place to make a career. Once you get in, you can go almost anywhere. So and do almost anything. So it's the getting your foot in the door, and the veterans preference points do work really well to help us get more veterans on our workforce. So the veterans preference, so the snowbirds business, right? So the snowbirds are Teamsters. So while they are on staff, they are Teamsters employees. And the Teamsters and IDOT, Teamsters negotiated an agreement for preference in promotion from seasonal to permanent. For highway maintainer positions that are not filled by snowbirds, absolutely 100% veterans preference applies. Contract. And the Illinois Public Labor Relations Act says that anything in the collective bargaining agreements trumps other statutes, employment and otherwise. So to the extent that they have an exclusive bargaining representative that negotiated terms for the snowbird hiring, and what if any preference or what if any avenue that is to full-time highway maintainer employment, that is governed by the collective bargaining agreement and the snowbird MOU or whatever collectively bargained instrument they used. Okay. Okay, talked about certified copy. No, you do not have to take an exam from all state jobs. And in fact, I would say from 2019 to 2022, the number of positions for which a test is required has decreased by like 90%. And we don't, to the extent that we have alternative mechanisms than making people take a day off of work and travel to one of 5 locations and spend the whole day or parts of days and pay for parking and all of those things. We made those adjustments in an effort to make state hiring more accessible. Most recently, we did away with typing tests, which were, very, not for most jobs, had very little applicability. If you were a super slow hunt and peck typer, it would be difficult for you to perform well at a job that was if it was secretarial or clerical and you were typing letters all day, right? So that there were other ways to assess that. There is not a fee charged for exams. Oh, you're asking for the certified copy of the DD-214. Unfortunately, I know it's so gross to think about people impersonating veterans or misrepresenting their service. I'm a lawyer by training, and I worked at the Attorney General's office, and I even had a case where a National Guard, a state employee, in fact, was already a state employee and had falsified a copy of her DD-214 in order to try to get a leg up over other applicants, and it's gross. So we do try to ensure that we have accurate documentation because, right, we do not want to give advantages to people who did not earn them when so many have earned them and are entitled to them. Okay, this one says, I was thinking of moving to another state. If I was to get a job in Illinois, can I transfer to another state with that job or another job? We do not have a final kind of remote work, hybrid work situation. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but like if you got on state of Illinois IDOT, if you got on an IDOT, we do not have like a compact where you could transfer to MoDOT, Missouri Department of Transportation. So if that's what you're asking, we do not have that capability. If you are asking about whether or not you could live out of state while working remotely for the state, anyone who tells you that you would be able to do that now is wishful thinking. We do not have a final answers on the future of remote work. And so largely people have to are working hybrid, multiple days in the office, even if it's just 1 or 2 days in the office while working remotely other times, if that's possible. Okay, so if you are doing career counseling and you want to do it by email and say, hey, here's my resume, in the material, there was the link to the email address of counseling by email, career counseling by email at illinois.gov. You can send your resume and say, given my resume, what kinds of titles should I be looking to apply to? Or you can set up time to have a phone conversation, a video call, other things. And I'm going to make this, okay, they finally stopped mowing. So give me 1 second. I'm going to open my window because it's about 80 degrees in my office. Okay. Thank you, sorry. So the other kind of shout out, link up to other state resources. Mike mentioned the Illinois workNet. They have great resources to help you get your resume in shape. So if that is something that, you're either just getting out of the service or you are wanting to kind of make a change or you haven't been having luck and you want to brush up your resume, the Illinois workNet site has great resources there, and that can be really valuable. Okay, letter grades are, thank you for that question. So we switched to electronic application for non-union jobs in January of 2021, and effective July 1st, 2022, all state jobs, including union jobs, go through the electronic application process. The electronic application process results in numeric scores. So letter grades for broad categories of jobs are no longer relevant to the hiring process. So the scored application questions or the yes/no auto disqualification, that is how you have to work through the process. And I'll show you with the electronic process, the actual system will send you an email when it's invitation for interview. So lots of times if you applied for a job and you didn't hear anything and now the job is filled, it was likely filled by contractual rights. Because if you are a veteran, qualified veteran, and if it was an older sequence where the grades still would have mattered, you would have been invited. You would likely have been invited to interview. And if you were not, it was because they filled it internally. Okay. Union contracts in Illinois trump everything. The Illinois Public Labor Relations Act says that anything in a collective bargaining agreement trumps anything in any other statute anywhere, essentially. That's the short answer. Okay, great, getting new DD-214. So I'll show you where the system lets you know whether or not you are disqualified, but it doesn't necessarily, and I Now, and I will apologize. I know we're working on the feature that allows applicants to see their score. My external profile, which is what non-state employees would use to apply, is not, which is what I'm going to show you in just a sec, isn't terribly robust. So I don't have a short answer for that. Now, the veterans points, when you work Holly Guppy and in her area, does assessment of DD-214 to let folks know, you know, kind of into what bucket they fall, and she can let you know what points you would be awarded. And then that carries through. She keeps that in the system, and it carries through all the positions you apply to. So how long is the process? So again, right, we are a few months out from all of the union jobs going through. And so there is not a hard and fast rule. We're still evolving to say, and we still have legacy processes going on. It is, I can tell you before we implemented electronic application processes that the average to fill state jobs was almost a year, which is abhorrent and gross. Our goal is 45 days. We are not there from posting to hire. We are not there. We are working. It is still several months, especially depending on whether or not it's shorter if it's just the most senior widget maker 1 for the widget maker 2. If it is an interviewed sequence, that is necessarily takes longer because you need schedules of multiple interviewers plus getting everyone set up for interview plus holding the interviews. So we don't have a hard and fast rule. Hopefully, as we get going along, as that number keeps coming down, we'll have a better idea for folks, but we don't have one right this second. Thank you, Tony. I will share my contact information for the group. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but hopefully I can answer a lot of them by, I'm going to my chat over here, so keep going to chat, but I'm going to show you some stuff. Okay. Randall, I'm not an expert on the Snowbird MOU. I'm sorry to say. Labor reports through me. If you have questions about, you know, why. So Snowbird hires was the first year going through electronic applications. That much I do know. And I do know that they were a little behind the time. Like, so if Snowbird's usually brought on in August, it wasn't until, I don't know, September or October where they were getting things going. We were lucky to have not had much snow in that instance, but though I say, you know, it's going to be almost 80 on November 10th, which is super weird. So I'm sorry that I don't have more. Okay. P. Turpin, I see your hand is raised. Was that, hey, what's up? Or was that a question? If it's a question, unmute yourself and go ahead and ask it.
Yes, it was actually a question I wanted to ask.
Sure.
I used to work for the state and I stopped working for them not quite a year ago. So do I still have to do the veterans preference? Because I already established it.
If I were you, I would reach out to Holly just to make sure that you are already established and that she has you in the system. But I expect that you are already established, and if so, if you're in her in their kind of database, then you don't have to send anything else in, and those veterans points would be applied.
Okay, is her information going to be put in the chat?
It is on to make sure that it doesn't have to be directly to Holly, but I know she's one of the people who mans the, Holly, do you want to scooch to the veterans by email at illinois.gov, whichever one that is. Go ahead and scooch before. Okay. What was that? Veterans outreach email. Oh, Holly gave you her direct line there. T, it's in the Yeah, we're pretty generic. Holly.guppy@illinois.gov, and I'm Sarah.Kirkley@illinois.gov. You can
Okay.
usually, you got about a 95% chance of getting it right if you go that way. Okay. Hey, Holly, I'm going to kick your slides off, and I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk through, yes.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. Okay. All right. I am probably not going to see hands raised because of the weird thing Zoom did for me. But I do have my chat open though. All right. So here is, let me actually go back a slide. Okay. So work.illinois.gov. Do not be alarmed by this illinois.jobstoweb.com. If you type in work.illinois.gov, it brings you here. That's like the secret sauce back end, and I'm a mobile because I have a tablet as my computer, so it's a little bit funky, but work.illinois.gov, okay? This is your main page. One of my favorite things about it is the map. I tell recruiters all the time, do not try to tell a Southern Illinoisan how far they're willing to drive for a job. They can get to Kentucky in the amount of time it takes you to get to Target. So the map lets people kind of look at their, whatever they define as their workable space and look and see where jobs are. So Harrisburg, what do we got going? Plumber, corrections, leisure, specialist, educator, option C. Those are all going to be at the correctional center there in Harrisburg. And it's got a whole bunch of jobs because they have psychologist, nursing, project manager, registered nurse, office associate, physician. If you have ever worked in healthcare, we have 7,000 jobs we would love for you to come fill. Even just one of them, I guess. Okay. So there is the map. The other thing that I like to show people is there's a million ways that you can search for jobs. So 62558. So that's where I grew up. I want to see jobs that are within 5 miles of it. I'm going to tell you, it's 15 miles outside of Springfield. So I made it small. And look, right there is a conservation police lieutenant that is going to be at the DNR spot in Pawnee, Illinois. So if I wanted to work in my town, I could set up job alerts for that. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. But the first thing I need to do is join the talent community, or you can click view profiles. We're going to set up your candidate profile so that we know who you are, so that we can, oh darn, I wonder if I'm already logged in. I'm already logged in. Hold on. It's thinking really hard today. View profile. All right, so here's where it's going to take you. Now, I have already set up. If you have not, you're going to click this little button right here. This is create an account. This is no different than any other kind of, streaming service, your bank, whatever you're going to set up. So here I am. So once you create that profile, once you create an account, it's going to ask your name, your name, your email, and set up a password. You're going to come to this. It's going to take you to this candidate profile page. Very typical. Here's something I'd like to point out. When you first create an account, you're going to get an email back from the system that says, "Thank you for creating an account with the Illinois job site." Look for it right away, because they come from these weird do not reply at state of Illinois, P1, NS2, these weird email accounts. So that very first one, when you set up your candidate profile, make sure that if it's in spam or it's in junk or you don't see it, that you move it to your inbox so that all future communication shows up in your inbox instead of, dying in some weird something. Okay. I expand all sections. So your documents, you can upload a resume, you can upload a picture of your CDL, you can upload your nursing license, anything that's relevant. In that way, it's all right here. You can upload your DD-214 here. That way it's all here in the secure portal, your candidate profile, and you don't have to go searching for it later. You're going to fill out your contact information, and when you have applied for jobs, you will see them all here. If you save applications, like you're halfway through the application and your mom calls, or the kid's school calls, you can just push save and it'll stay right here. It'll come up like a box like that, and you can click it and go right back to it. You're going to put in your previous employment. Notice the improvement. There is not a box that's like this big that asks you to vomit out every duty you've ever performed in a role. We're looking for titles, dates, and employer. So there's your work. It's going to ask you about your education. Include if you took courses in the military, right? So if you have like training school, for example, and I apologize for all of my bad references because I get nervous because it's not an area that I'm most familiar with. So you say officer training school, you would say, you could say other major field of study. I don't know that munitions or whatever would be on here. Select options, and then you're at least accounting for the various kinds of education that you received through the military. Skills is another one. If you are CPR certified, if you have hazmat, if you did training on hazmat removal, if you did these various things. Daniel, do you see that someone's waiting in the waiting room? Do I need to push admit or do you? Okay, well, it went away. Okay, if you have licenses, if you're a CDL license holder, put that here. If you have a nursing license, this is my law license. And whether or not you're willing to move geographically. You're not married to this anyway, but if you have a preferred county, stick it there, okay? So that's your candidate profile. Now, something else, we'll show you job searches generally, but while we're on this page, I want to show you something great. So if you know you want a highway maintainer job, for example, you're going to go to options and you're going to set up a job alert. Push save at the bottom. It won't let you go without saving. Okay, so you want to create a new job alert. All right, so this looks just like the search bar at the top of the main page, okay? And so say maybe I don't necessarily want a highway maintainer job. Maybe I just want to work for IDOT, okay? So I'm going to show more options, and I want IDOT, okay? I want IDOT jobs, and I want jobs within 50 miles of I think that's DeCoin. I don't remember exactly. Okay, so that's what I went. Now, here's the deal. I can preview my alert and it can show me what I'm looking at. Okay, okay, so if I set up this alert, this is what it would look like. This sends you an email. So this I've clicked on, I have it, it's defaulted for 7 days. Okay, so that every 7 days you're going to get an email of the positions that are responsive to your job alert. So so once a week, and they're live links. So if you see like, sweet, highway maintainer, that's exactly what I want. Click, and it takes you right there. You apply from there, okay? So these are all the jobs that are within 50 miles of whatever town 62909 is. It's somewhere over there, right? Because they're Marion, Carbondale, okay? So I can follow those and apply. So let's look. So, and if I want to, so I previewed to see if it brought me what I wanted. And then if so, I click create alert. And then I'm set up in the system. The system will send me an email every week telling me what the jobs are. Okay? All right. So let's walk through, well, IDOT aren't the best example. Okay, let's do natural resources. Any right now. All right, let's go back to, let's view jobs here. Let's go to view all jobs and just see what we got going. Okay, so let's look at child protection specialist. We're going to keep kids safe. This is also a job that we desperately are always looking for folks to do this really important work. All right, so here's the job posting. This is what it looks like. This blue box is our general kind of like, hey, background stuff. If you have a disability and you need an accommodation at any point, let us know. There's going to be a spot to do that. If you have information that you want us to know, if you are working with rehab services or voc rehab, upload that to your document. We don't sponsor people for staying in the States. You have to be lawfully authorized to work, separate and apart from us sponsoring you. And we don't want to know your past salary information. Okay, so it's going to tell you about this job and give you some information about it, when it closes, what the salary range is. Now, here's the deal. Union jobs like this one have a salary range from step 1 to step 8. And you are anticipated to start at the beginning of that step because that is how the contract works. Right? You get annual increases that move you up the steps until you get to step 8 in longevity, right? So when you see the whole range, don't be like, oh, sweet Lord, I'm going to make $7,300 a month. You are going to be offered the low end of that salary, but your earning capacity as of right this second is all the way up to there, and every contract it moves. So, okay. It is highly recommended. So this job, okay, follow instructions, right, is just the best kind of overarching suggestion I can give you. So if the agency says it's highly recommended you upload official college transcripts, it means that they're looking for something and they are inviting you, they're giving you information, help us help you ensure that if you're qualified, we hire you quickly. So this job actually has a preference for a master's in social work, and that is why that most jobs do not say that. In fact, that's the first time I've seen it. And it must be because they've had difficulty validating folks' education, okay? So when you see this position as a union position, that's on a lot of jobs. And that's really just saying, like, listen, if you don't hear from us, it's really not about you, right? It's that we have, contractual obligations to meet. Please keep applying. Please don't be sad. We totally want you still. So there is no application via email, paper, walking in, none of that. You have to apply through the system, okay? So every job posting is going to have the responsibilities listed, minimum requirements, physical requirements, okay? And then sometimes you'll also see preferred qualifications. Now, those are weighted questions that help us determine who is, of the people who are minimally qualified, who's most qualified and should be invited to interview. Your veterans preference points go on top of that, okay? All right, so this is an interesting one because sometimes you'll see there are multiple ways to be minimally qualified. Okay, so if you have a master's degree in social work, if you have a master's degree in a related field, and 1 year of experience, or if you have a bachelor's in social work and 1 year of experience, bachelor's degree in related field, and 2 years of experience. So we know that the application questions are going to get to each of those things and see of those people, which of who meets which of those, which applicants meet which of those criteria, and that is how they're going to develop their pool. You'll also be asked questions about conditions of employment, right? So conditions of employment, you have to be able to met. Sometimes you'll see in our facility, especially those that have a federal requirement, federal vaccine requirement, you may see something that says that this condition of employment to meet all physical and medical requirements. Some hospital type settings require TB test, vaccination, something with tuberculosis, not sure. Okay. Or things like background check, drug test, note to self. We do not test for cannabis. So if you get invited to go to a background check and you're worried about medical or recreational use, we don't test for it. That's just my public service announcement for the day. Okay. So they all look the same, and when you go to apply, which this isn't okay, when you go to apply, first thing it's going to do is take you back to your candidate profile. Okay. So it's going to say, right, you child protection specialist, this is the job you want to apply for? Cool, let's go. All right. So it takes you back. You're like, oh, this looks familiar. This is my candidate profile. Now, I just saw in the posting that it might be valuable to update your college transcript. I'm like, well, I have my college transcript. Maybe I'll upload them to my profile right here before I even apply so that they have what they need, yada, yada. Okay. If you've changed jobs since you did your candidate profile, oh gosh, I need to update my employment because I have a new job. Now you're going to, so it's this kind of quick check to make sure that your candidate profile is still accurate before you apply. And it has everything that you want them to consider when looking at your application. Okay, we're going to ask how you heard about it. That is really just so that we know if we go to job fairs and we get 20 applicants that say, oh, the Ansar Shrine Circus job fair was awesome. They're every year. Okay, so then you're going to, there are a number of voluntary disclosure options. You can choose to respond to the diversity information, both on ethnicity, gender, and disability. Disability is actually required, but you can always say that you prefer not to disclose. Then there are questions for those applicants that do have a disability about whether or not they need reasonably accommodated and how we can do that to make the process accessible to everyone. Now, here we go. Voluntary veteran group self-identification. So let's make this guy big so we can see it nicely, okay? Remember how Holly talked about the various different kinds of buckets into which veterans preference falls? This is them, okay? So T, to your point, I've submitted required military documentation to CMS. Some point after 2000, I've already established my veterans preference. So when you go to apply, I would still confirm just to make sure, but once you've confirmed, you can select D, right? I already got it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's what I've been doing.
Great. So I wish to claim veterans preference. That's A, right? So if you have not yet established veterans preference and you're not sure which point bucket you fall into, you're gonna click A, and they know then to check with Holly's team to send that DD 214, have her do her assessment and of where you fit. Okay. Position at employer. Yes, Tracy, that is a great question. If you want credit for, and even your military service, because military service at different ranks is counted or is like aligns with different levels of jobs that can get you qualified. So you will want to say, that you were ever a petty officer for date to date, and then you were a first class petty. And I apologize for butchering this. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Or whatever the ranks were. You were a sergeant for this long, and then you were a lieutenant for this long. So U.S. Navy, sergeant, date to date. U.S. Navy, lieutenant, date to date. That will be helpful for people assessing. But keep in mind, right? Sometimes overlap during the 7 years you were with an employer. So I helped someone create a candidate profile who was like, people kept leaving and I kept assuming more jobs. So I was sales, I was in charge of sales from the day I started. This is what I was hired for, and I still do that now. And then so-and-so accounts receivable left. So I took on that responsibility in March, and I'm still doing it now. And then accounts payable left on this date, and I'm still doing that now, and I included that as well. Yes, correct. Because the level of responsibility changes with rank, it's important that you talk about. So the same, you're good on your resume. That's a really great flag too on your resume. So to the extent that again, I know I've said this before, help us help you. Not everyone who reviews applications for job experience is well versed. We certainly have a number of veterans on our team, but not everyone. We have people who have spent their entire careers in state service. And so they know what an HR rep does versus an HR specialist in the state, but they may not know the difference between a gunnery sergeant and something else. So in your resume, do it once. Like, put in the time and effort to do it once. Break it out in your candidate profile and have a really strong resume that kind of breaks out the responsibilities. If you had additional or special assignments, if you received training on a certain something or other, whether you trained others on something or other, those kinds of things, because you want to be able, because what you're going to do is you'll see that there are questions that say things like, this position prefers supervisory skills or prefers 3 years of supervisory experience. Do you meet this preference? Do you meet this whatever? And you want to be able to say, so then you're going to say yes or no. And then if you say yes, you're going to, in the box, then you're going to say, as an whatever, or as a gunnery sergeant, or as a whatever, I was responsible for the direct supervision of 10 airmen. I am mixing metaphors and titles, and I apologize. And so please know that I am not trying to be offensive by my high level of ignorance on the subject. Okay. And then when I was promoted to an E7, I now was responsible for directly supervising 2 of this title that in turn each supervised whatever, right? Those kinds of things are helpful, right? Started as a private, left after 15 years as a lieutenant, but have no paperwork yet showing lieutenant status other than your commission from university. So it needs to jive with your, you can certainly put that on your candidate profile if it's true. At the point where you have, I don't know what that is. Keep working with the VA and folks to help you get the information that you need to kind of have in your packet and upload to the candidate profile. But if you were a lieutenant, say so. I have no reason to think that you are being dishonest about that. Okay. Yeah, you can update. I can update the candidate profile again right now, even though I just did. Yes, it's a living, breathing thing. And so when we're validating and looking, right, your response to application questions, which we haven't even gotten to yet, but we will in just one sec, those stay solid, but your candidate profile and your resume, when they get validated, it pulls from your candidate profile. So you can always do that. Okay, application questions. Okay, here's the other thing that's great. The system keeps you from forgetting something that would get you kicked out. So these are red boxes because they're required, and you can't apply without having answered these questions, okay? So this one starts with conditions of employment. You got to pass background check, you got to have a license and the ability to travel, daily access to an automobile, proof of vehicle insurance, ability to serve on call. Can you meet these, yes or no? If you say no to conditions of employment, you will not be considered. If you read the conditions of employment and you're like, hell no, just don't apply, right? Be like, okay, this job isn't for me because I don't want that, right? That's not something I'm willing to do. But don't mark no and then be frustrated when you don't get a call or you don't get any further information, or you've been automatically disqualified email from the system. Okay. All right. So the requirements are going to say it is a requirement of this position. Okay. So if you don't fall in one of these, remember this one had like, you can meet it this way, this way, this way, or this way. If you don't meet one of those ways, then you're not qualified. So normally it's things like this position, it is a requirement of the position that you have mental development equivalent to 4 years of college. Do you meet this, yes or no? Let me tell you, that is not saying, do you have a bachelor's degree? okay? Tell us like you would if you and I were at a backyard barbecue and I'm saying, hey, we got this job in my office. Think of it's like the equivalent of college. And you're like, I could do that job. Here's why I could do that job. Okay? I got some college, or I got my military training, plus I've been working in the field in that industry for 5 years. There's no way I wouldn't be able to do that job. Okay. So if you see one of those equivalency type questions, you can do the work, say yes, and then in the box explain it. Say, while I don't have a bachelor's degree, I have over 1,200 hours of U.S. military training. I have 36 semester hours towards an associate's degree, and I have 10 years of experience in the field. I more than exceed the equivalent of having 4 years of college. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, now, so sometimes you will see, do you possess an additional 1 year of directly related professional experience? Now, this is the equivalent, this is determining kind of among the minimally qualified people that answer yes and are validated yes to that minimum, which of those are likely a little bit more meeting the preferences, a little bit more qualified because they have at least 1 year of directly responsible experience. This is separating between the brand new Master's of Social Work person and the, 5 years at Lutheran Children's Services doing the same work, same or similar work as DCFS people that we would love to bring in with all of their experience already, right? So that's what that question is. Okie dokie. And so when they say provide when and where you gained this experience, so that's where you're going to want to say, so it is not a life, word vomit of every duty ever performed. It's the specific question. So for example, 1 year directly responsible experience in social welfare protective services delivery, or, okay, I would say, I have both a master's in social work from SIUC in 2016 and more than 5 years experience in social welfare services as a case coordinator. It's gonna be a long day if I can't type. Coordinator at Lutheran Family Services in Peoria. Okay, short, sweet, but it points them in the direction. So when they go to validate this, they go, oh, look, in her education on the candidate profile, it does say she got a master's in social work from SIU in 2016. Oh, look, she has been at Lutheran Family Services in Peoria. She's a great get. I'm happy to have her in our pool. Okay? And then when you've answered those questions, you just click apply. Here's what happens if you don't answer the questions. You're going to click apply and it's going to go, and I do want to also give a warning. Are you a current state of Illinois employee, yes or no? If yes, where do you work? That is so that that is just for our internal processing of contractual rights. So don't think because, oh, hell, it asks if it's a state of Illinois employee, so they really just want an internal candidate. We only care about whether you're an internal or external candidate if you have contractual rights to the job, and that by not promoting the person with seniority that the contract says we have to do, that we're engaging in an unfair labor practice. Once contractual rights are afforded to the people who deserve them, we would love nothing more than to hire all external candidates. Let's get more warm bodies to help us do the work. And if they are wildly talented with great experience veterans, I'm doubly, triply for it, okay? So now it's not gonna let me apply because please correct the errors below, right? Because it's red and I didn't answer some of the things that were required. So that is a great way. Now say I'm like, oh crap, I want to upload something, so I want to save it instead, okay? I'm gonna save it. It'll let me save it even if it's undone. Then when I go back to my profile, when I go to view my profile up here, and it shows me, and I look for my saved applications, there it is, halfway completed. So once I have the stuff I want to do, that's where I do it. I click it right there and go if I win. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a quick and dirty primer on how to apply for state employment. Here's the deal. It's also mobile friendly. So you can apply on your phone in line at the grocery store. Candidate profile is going to take you the longest, but it is a one-time thing, periodic updates as necessary as your kind of, either work experience, education, or otherwise changes. But short of that, all you need to know. What questions does anybody have? Other than, will you slow down and you talk too fast? But it's too late for that. Does that make sense? It really is very similar to the way that the rest of the world hires for once, right? In creating a candidate profile, finding a job, clicking apply, answering the questions. Did I say you can upload more than one resume? You can upload as many documents as you want. I would upload your resume that is current. I know some people like to tailor their resumes for jobs. If you wanted to save like child protection specialist resume, that might be, so that the problem is that resume box, the one where it says my resume, like when I showed you on the candidate profile, that is what gets pulled over into the application when people apply. So if you are, applying for, you're back in Illinois, you're new adventure, you don't care where you work, you got your MSW, you want to do child protection, and if that doesn't work out, you might do something else, and you want to have a specifically tailored resume for those, and you're going to apply to 5 or 10 of those child protection specialists all over the state. Having a child protection specialist resume in the box on your candidate profile that says my resume is going to be the most valuable, because then when we go and look at your list, you're a listed applicant, and we click on you to validate your stuff, it's going to auto pull your resume from whatever's in that box. Okay. Anybody have any other questions? All right, Daniel, with that, I said so many words. I am happy to say no more words other than thank you all again for your service, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to get you some information and resources in your hands. Come join our team. We are always looking to add great public servants, and you have already proven that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. Much appreciated for that detailed walkthrough with folks. And just want to reiterate, and actually we did get a message here in the chat, so this will be perfect. Just wanted to reiterate that we are recording the session, so I will be uploading it to the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel under the virtual job fairs playlist. Hopefully by no longer than the end of the day tomorrow, but we do guarantee within 48 hours of the conclusion of the event or event series in this case. So I will be working on that shortly after we hop off here so that you folks can have access to this information. Again, just go onto YouTube. It'll be the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel, and there will be a option for playlists off to the left-hand side. You'll see virtual job fairs. Click on that, and you'll have a complete listing of all of the virtual events, virtual hiring events, job fairs that we have completed to date. Aside from that, just a few things that I want to note here as a kind of housekeeping measure, if you will. If you registered for any of the 3 days of events, we did capture that information on the back end, of course, through Eventbrite. So we will be forwarding that information on to the folks at IDES and the partners, of course, that helped put on this wonderful workshop series as well. Aside from that, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Of course, be remiss if we didn't, mention that you have a wonderful day, of course, tomorrow as well for Veterans Day. Thank you all for your service. Thank you to everybody that participated. Much appreciated. Have a wonderful rest of your
Hey,
week.
Daniel.
Take care, everybody.
Hey, Daniel,
Yes.
it's Sarah. Can you leave it for, just 1 second?
Of course.
I have, leave it open for 1 second. I need to copy something from the chat. Okay, I got it. Feel free. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Have a
bye-bye.
wonderful rest of your day.